Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we're gonna create this awesome circle matte transition. So without wasting time, let's start creating it. Create a new composition, rename it to circle. For width enter 3840 pixels and for height enter 2160 pixels. For pixel aspect ratio select square pixels, set frame rate to 30 frames. And for duration, enter 8 seconds or 240 frames. Hit OK. OK, drag two videos into this composition. If the size of your videos are not identical to your composition size, you can simply select them, right-click and choose Transform Fit to Comp With. OK, our matte transition will be 2 seconds, so we need to have 2 seconds overlap for these videos. Go to second 3, select bottom video and hit left square bracket key on your keyboard to shift the second video to this point. Okay, now let's work on our circle matte transition. So deselect all layers, activate title action save to find the center of the composition. Click on ellipse tool. For fill color, select white color. Click on stroke options and for stroke, select none. In composition window, click your mouse and then hold Ctrl and Shift keys and drag to create a perfect circle. Select shape layer, hit return key and rename it to circle 1. Now click and open this arrow button, then open content, ellipse 1, ellipse path 1, and then change the size to 500. Okay, if the anchor point is not on the center of the circle shape, select circle layer, hold Ctrl and Alt keys and press Home button on your keyboard. Now, if you want to place this circle on the center of your composition, hold Ctrl key and then press Home button. This shape layer will be our 2-second matte transition, so we want this layer to start where the overlap begins, I mean in second 3, and ends where the overlap finished, I mean in second 5. So, select bottom video, hit I key on your keyboard to jump to the beginning of this clip. Now select circle 1 layer and hit Alt and left square bracket key on your keyboard to cut this layer at this point. Then select the top video, hit O key on your keyboard to jump to the end and again select circle 1 layer and this time press Alt and right square bracket key to cut this layer at this point. Okay, now let's animate this shape layer. So at first select circle layer and hit S key to load a scale property. Hold Shift key and move time indicator, it snaps to the beginning of this layer. Change scale to 0 and press stopwatch to create a keyframe here. Then hold Shift key and go to the end of this layer and increase scale property until it covers the entire screen, for example 950. Now move work area start and end handle to make a shorter preview. And then press numpad 0 to see the preview. Okay, great. Okay, now let's create a smoother animation. So, select these keyframes, right-click and choose Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, or press F9. While your keyframes are still selected, click on this button to open Graph Editor panel. Be sure you are at Edit Speed Graph mode, and also activate a Snap button. Now select the first keyframe and move the handle to the right side until you see 40%, and then select the second keyframe and move the handle to the left side until you see 60%. Okay, now press numpad 0 to see the results. Okay, it's great, nice and smooth. Okay, now I want to have more circle shape layers to cover the entire screen. In fact, we need to create a precomposition. So select circle 1 layer, right click and choose Precompose, or from menu choose Layer, Precompose, or hit Ctrl Shift C. Activate Adjust Composition Duration and open New Composition Options. Okay, as you can see, we have a 2-second precomposition for our matte transition, but our composition starts from second 3 and ends in second 5. We want it to start from frame or second 0. So, from menu select Composition, Composition Settings, or press Ctrl K, and for a start time code enter 0 and for duration enter 2 seconds or 60 frames. Now it starts from 0 and ends in second 2. Okay, now we want to duplicate several circle shapes to cover the entire screen. But before that, select shape layer and hit U key on your keyboard to load all keyframes. Hold Ctrl key and click here to change display style to see the frame numbers. Go to frame 40 and move the last keyframe to this time. While shape layer is still selected, hit Ctrl D 2 times to create 2 new copies. Okay, now let's add a few frames offset to our layers to create more interesting matte transitions. So press Ctrl A to select all layers. From menu, choose Layer, Markers, add marker as a visual representation to see where the keyframes are when we want to add offset to our layers. Then hold Ctrl key and click on Circle 1 to deselect it. Now go to frame 5 and press left square bracket key to shift these layers to frame 5. Then go to frame 10, deselect Circle 2 and hit left square bracket key. Okay, great. Now if I scrub in timeline, you can see these three circles separately because they have the same color. So select Circle 1 and click on Fill Color option. Here we have HSB, that means hue, saturation and brightness. For Circle 1, I want to have 25% brightness. For Circle 2, I want to have 50% brightness. And finally, for the last one, I must have 100% brightness to cover the entire screen with white color. Press numpad 0. Great. Our matte transition almost finished. But maybe this question has crossed your mind, why did I change brightness for those shape layers? Let's go back to the circle composition. For top video from track matte column, choose Luma Inverted Matte. And now let's see a preview. Great. Okay, did you get the point? If you remember from the previous lectures, Luma Matte uses the brightness. In fact, Luma Matte will reveal the white and hide the black area. Let me hide bottom video for a second. If I change track matte option to Luma Matte, as you can see here, our video will be 100% visible where we have 100% white color. And it is 50% visible where we have 50% white color. And it is 25% visible where we have 25% white color. And finally, it is invisible outside of these circles because here we don't have any color. And if I change track matte option to Luma Inverted Matte, as you can see, we have an inverse effect. Where we don't have any color, I mean outside of the circles, we will see 100% of the video. And where we have white color, for example, in our last circle, we can't see the video anymore. Okay, let's make the bottom video visible again. And let's see a preview. Awesome, great. Okay, do you like to create more interesting transition? If yes, so let's add some awesome effects to our videos. So, select first video. In Effects and Preset panel, type Transform. While your video layer is still selected, double click on this effect or you can drag it over your first video in timeline. Select Transform effect, hit Return key and rename it to Transform Scale. Now go to the beginning of matte transition. For Transform effect, create a keyframe for a scale property. Now go to the end of this layer and for a scale property, enter 200. Now let's add this effect to our second video. So add another Transform effect to your second video. In Effect Controls panel, rename it to Transform Scale. Now go to the end of this layer and for a scale property, enter 100 and set a keyframe. Now go to the beginning of your matte transition and change scale value to 20. Let's see a preview. Great. Okay, but as you can see here, we have some empty area around these second videos. So to solve this problem, let's add another effect. In Effects and Preset panel, type Motion Tile. Drag this Motion Tile effect over second video. And for output width and height, enter 500. It seems it doesn't have any effect on our video. To solve this problem, drag this Motion Tile effect layer over Transform Scale effect. And if you like to have mirror effect, you can turn on mirror edge for Motion Tile effect. Let's see a preview. Great. Okay, now let's add a little bit rotation to our videos as well. So in Effects and Preset panel, type Transform. Drag it over your first video in timeline. Select Transform effect, hit Return and rename it to Transform Rotation. Now go to the beginning of your matte transition. For Transform Rotation effect, create a keyframe for Rotation property. And now go to the end of this layer and for Rotation property, enter -30 degrees. Okay, now let's add this rotation effect to our second video. So apply a new Transform effect to your second video. Rename it to Transform Rotation. This time, go to the end of your matte transition, create a keyframe for Rotation property at 0 value, and then go to the beginning of this layer, and for rotation property enter 30 degrees. If you see empty area around your first video, it means you have to add motion tile effect to this video as well. So let's copy motion tile effect from the second video and paste it over the first video in Effect Controls panel. And then drag it over your transform effects. Okay, let's see the result. Press numpad 0. Great. If you don't want to see these sharp edges, you can add a blur effect to your Circle Matte Precomp. So select Circle Matte Precomp. From menu, choose Effects, Blur and Sharpen, Fast Box Blur. Increase blur radius, for example 20. And be sure your Repeat Edge Pixels option is on. Okay, let's see the result in Circle Composition. Okay, great. Okay, now let's add another amazing effect. In Effects and Preset panel, find Turbulent Displace effect and drag it over your matte transition. Here for Displacement option, you can select Twist, change amount value, for example to 50. Let's see the result. Great. Okay. Okay, now let's add some nice effects to our videos to create more amazing transitions. So, select the first video. In Effects and Preset panel, find Exposure Effect and drag it over your first video. Go to the beginning of Matte Transition and set a keyframe for exposure at value 0. Then go to the end and increase exposure to 3. Now select the second video. Drag another exposure effect over your second video. Go to the end and change exposure to 0 and set a keyframe. And then go to the beginning and change exposure value to 3. Let's see a preview. Okay, great. Okay, now let's add another effect. Select the first video. In Effects and Preset panel, find Tint Effect and drag it over your first video. Here in Map White 2, you can change white color to another color. Now go to the beginning of Matte Transition and set a keyframe for Amount to Tint at value 0. And then go to the end and change its value to 100. Now select the second video. Drag another tint effect to your second video. Here again you can change Map White 2 color. While you are at the end of Matte Transition, set a keyframe for Amount to Tint at value 0. Now go to the beginning of Matte Transition and change its value to 100. Okay, let's see the result. Great. Okay, now let's add blur effect to our videos. So, select the first video. From menu, choose Effects, Blur and Sharpen, Camera Lens Blur. Then go to the beginning of Matte Transition and change blur radius value to 0 and set a keyframe. Also, enable Repeat Edge Pixels option. Now go to the end and set a keyframe for blur radius at value 50. Now select the second video and apply a camera lens blur effect to it. Go to the end of Matte Transition and change its value to 0 and set a keyframe. Also enable Repeat Edge Pixels option. Now go to the beginning and change its value to 50. Let's see the results. Okay, great. Okay, let's change keyframes mode to create smoother animations for our transition. So select all layers and hit U key to load all keyframes. Select all keyframes and right click and choose Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease. While all keyframes are still selected, open Graph Editor. Be sure Edit Speed Graph option is enabled and also activate a snap button. Okay, now select all left keyframes, hold Shift key on your keyboard and move keyframe handles to the right side until you see 40%. Now select all right keyframes, hold Shift key and move keyframe handles to the left side until you see 60%. Okay, let's see the result. Okay, now we have a smoother animation for our matte transition. Okay, if you don't want any of these effects applied to your videos or matte transition, you can simply turn them off to have a simple transition. Okay, let's turn on some of these effects again to see the final results. Great. Okay, in this video you learned new techniques for creating matte transitions. In upcoming videos we're gonna create more amazing matte transitions. So I hope you have enjoyed this course so far. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.